The Fortunate Future is brought to you by Nico, the cryptocurrency powering the Nikola Tesla legacy. Join the Nico community at www.nico.eco.
Welcome to The Fortunate Future. I'm your host, Lee Moore Markman. On today's show, we'll be covering the history of cryptocurrency, how it came about, what was its original intent, and how it has evolved over the years. We'll take an interesting look at comparing cryptocurrencies with credit cards, which will give you a better understanding of how transactions work. We'll also be covering how to fund the purchase of an investment property with an array of possibilities from the conventional to the creative. To round off the show, we'll be discussing how to manage your finances without the help of a financial planner. It's your money after all, and no one will look after your hard-earned dollars with as much care as you will. It's going to be a great show, so stay tuned. In the last year or two, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies have moved towards becoming mainstream, and Bitcoin in particular has become the new buzzword. Bitcoin was first introduced in 2009, and the exciting evolution since then of cryptocurrencies has been fascinating to follow. How it unfolds in the coming months and years will be even more thrilling as the concept expands and more people understand and see the potential and participate in the crypto world. With me in studio today is Brian Huseman, who's been in the industry for quite some time. Brian, you've been in the crypto world for a little while. Can you tell me a little bit about its history?
Well, cryptocurrency actually began quite a long time before Bitcoin was actually invented. People have been trying to solve the double spend problem. And eventually it took an anonymous developer named Satoshi Nakamoto. He released a white paper in 2008. That solved the problem, and that was the beginning of Bitcoin, which was released in 2009. And the beginning, it was all just running on home PCs, people's PCs, and it's grown into the phenomenon that it is today.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know what its original intent was when it was first created?
Well, the title of the white paper is Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer digital or electronic cash system. Right. So it was always meant to be used as cash, for paying merchants, for use in commerce, and eventually to replace the fiat currencies that governments.
Today, yeah. Well, I mean, it'll be determined whether or not it replaces it, but it's been interesting so far. Now, Bitcoin was part of the original, and then there was a split between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. Can you share a little bit of insight on what happened there?
Yeah, the key thing to realize in the split was that there was a difference of opinion on scaling. So when Bitcoin was originally created, it had a kind of a break on it to prevent spam attacks. Okay. So it worked very well, and then maybe in 2016, people started thinking, we got to raise this limit. Now that the system is running on specialized hardware in mining farms, we can take all this spam. So one group thought that it was dangerous to remove the break, and those people remained in Bitcoin.
The Bitcoin, yeah.
Right. A group of people decided or thought that it's originally there was never meant to have this break, so they forked off and created Bitcoin Cash, and they actually raised the limit. So it can actually do more transaction throughput.
Right. And so with transaction being the ultimate goal, what do you think is the cause behind why we don't have merchants' acceptance, right? The more merchants we have that we can use these coins at, the more transactional it's going to be.
Right.
That's sort of a little bit of the missing piece of the puzzle, or not missing, but not quite as strong as it should be. Why do you think that is?
Exactly. It's kind of a case of once bitten, twice shy, where when Bitcoin was getting very popular, a number of merchants, brick and mortar merchants and online merchants, both began accepting Bitcoin. It was an exciting new currency. But then when the price and and transactions, and it was mostly between exchanges. But when the prices and transaction fees went up in December and January of this year and last year, the user experience declined. So
right, so merchants shied away at that point.
yeah, so many merchants stopped accepting it. So Steam Games stopped accepting it, Expedia stopped accepting it. So really the case is now we need to convince them that Bitcoin Cash is open for business, that it works like the original Bitcoin was supposed to.
Yeah. Now, I've heard you talk about how crypto is both similar and different than credit cards. Do you mind to share that? Because I thought that was interesting.
Sure. With credit cards, the key difference is a third party. So when you hand a credit card to a merchant, you're not just interacting with the merchant, you're interacting with the credit card company as well.
Right.
So you're not just saying, here, pay the merchant $100. You're actually, the merchant is requesting the credit card company to debit your account and credit their account. So it's
multiple transactions.
Right. It's multiple transactions, but it's also permission. So the credit card company might decide to cancel the transaction. I mean, we've all been there where we use our credit card in a place where right. So and you have to call them up and so. But this way with cryptocurrency, it's direct. So it goes right from your wallet to the merchant wallet. There's no third party.
Yeah.
So.
And with this evolution, do you think that there's still a place for banking in the crypto world?
Well, I believe there is, but mostly in custodial fashion. So not as much with managing payments.
Yeah.
And the good thing about cryptocurrency is that the ledger, where all the transaction history is stored, is public and auditable.
Right.
So you can see, how much reserves the bank has, or whether it's honoring, the loans that it's making, etc.
Yeah. Well, no, that's really interesting, thinking about it that way. Another piece that kind of ties into that I'm curious to get your thoughts on is, historically, banks printed money, governments have been printing money. What does that look like for the crypto world?
Well, one of the key things is that the banks and even governments printing money and telling us that it's worth something is only something that has been around in a major way in the last 100 years.
Yeah.
So that's the world that we've all grown up in. So we don't know anything else. But in the past, currencies were always backed by a commodity, or they were backed by even a bank's promise to pay out in a certain commodity or gold or silver. And with cryptocurrency, it kind of goes back to that, where there's a set limit. There'll only be 21 million bitcoins that are ever
be in
existence. So they can't make more, and they can't just and the thing that it's backed by is users' value that they entrust to the network. So if you believe that the network has value and that it allows you to send money anywhere, very cheap, reliably, and with almost no fee, and if you believe that that system has value, then the price of the network will go up and the price of each coin will go up.
Right. So it's a major mind shift for us, as we're moving away from printed money into more digital money.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you so much for being here, for sharing your insights, your history on the experience, and we'll all have to wait with bated breath to see how this exciting industry unfolds. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was great to be here.
It's so interesting to hear how the world of cryptocurrency is evolving daily, and I hope you'll be watching and participating along with me in this digital world as it becomes more commonplace and the future of money. Coming up after the break, we'll be discussing the many ways you can fund the purchase of rental property. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
The Fortunate Future is brought to you by Nico, the cryptocurrency powering the Nikola Tesla legacy. Join the Nico community at www.nico.eco. Nikola Tesla was an inventor and futurist who helped shape our world. Nikola Tesla Unite Limited was formed to advance his visions of making the world a better place for all. Using a cryptocurrency called Nico, Nikola Tesla's legacy is being taken to new places in ways never before imagined. Nico is the center of a digital economy that brings like-minded people together. Those who believe in the vision of Nikola Tesla are part of the Nico economy that aims to empower everyone with the ability to achieve their dreams. For more information, visit www.nico.eco.
With mortgage rules tightening on a continuous basis, it is becoming increasingly challenging to qualify for a mortgage, especially if it's an application for your second mortgage needed for investing in a rental property. Rest assured that just because it's challenging doesn't mean that there isn't a solution. In fact, we'll be introducing a variety of solutions to be able to obtain financing for the purchase of a rental property. With me in studio today is Michael Oziel, mortgage agent. Now, Michael, tell me what's been happening in the mortgage industry. I've heard a lot of tightening. It's harder than ever to qualify for a mortgage. What's been happening?
Well, what happened recently was the government of Canada put in the stress test. And that's probably been the biggest change in Canada that we've had to endure. Essentially, what it means is that the Bank of Canada has put in place a rule where everybody's really going to qualify for about 20% less mortgage than they used to.
So purchasing power has gone down.
You got it, but you're exactly right, by 20% or approximately.
So despite all these tightenings and things that are happening, there are still lots of investors out there who are looking to buy investment property. They're obviously not shying away. If they're still so gung-ho about having the benefit of passive income, what should they be considering when they're looking to get a mortgage?
They should definitely be considering the down payment that's required. The banks definitely want at least 20% down when it comes to purchasing an investment property. Amortization, some banks have actually brought it back to about 25 years.
Okay, so the duration of time that it takes to pay back.
Yes, and that's essentially going to increase your monthly payment, where an investment property is going to have slightly lower cash flow, but that's where the banks are they're mitigating their issues with and their risk tolerance on the investment properties. They're really scaling it back a little bit when it comes to looking at these investment properties.
Okay, so you've got to be super squeaky clean, you've got to have a fantastic income, lots of savings, and then you're still okay in the bank size. Is that right?
You got it. That's exactly right.
Now, that is unfortunately not most of society. So, even if you've gotten to qualify for a mortgage in your own home, the cost of real estate is super high these days. You may have used your entire mortgage ability on your own property. So, if you're still thinking about investment property and you don't meet those squeaky clean criteria, what other options do you have?
Well, there's a few different options, Limor. You can refinance your house. You can go into a line of credit on your house to build up that line of credit, to build up that down payment for the investment property. And that's really what's going to give you the ability to give you the option to purchase that investment property.
What does that mean for you in terms of a lender, right? So I love that you referenced accessing money from the equity of your existing home, which is fantastic, but you still need a lender to give you the rest of the money.
That's
so
right.
Again, if you don't meet those criteria, are there other lenders out there, or what are the options?
There are a few different other lenders out there that would look at providing mortgages to people that don't quite qualify with the banks.
Right.
Namely, there's like the home trusts, Equitable Banks of the world, Optimum Mortgage. These are lenders that look outside the box. They don't necessarily look at you and say, well, if you're not so squeaky clean, you don't have that exact salary that we need to qualify for the mortgage, or you're self-employed. That's where this type of lender is really going to step forward, and they're going to give you what you're looking for to get that investment property that you're looking to build your portfolio with.
Right. And so, I know people always think, okay, well, there's a catch here. What kinds of implications are there if you go with some of these alternative lenders?
So the alternative lenders typically do charge a premium on the interest rate.
So I knew you were going to say something like that.
But at the end of the day, when it comes to deciding which lender you're going to go with, you really have to pick your poison.
Right. What do you mean by that?
When you're self-employed, we all love to go down the road of maximizing write-offs and ensuring that we're reducing our tax obligations at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But that comes at the cost of where a bank may not look at you so favorably.
Right.
Now, when you take one of these B lenders into consideration, they'll actually look at your business revenue versus how much you're declaring as a personal, as an individual investor. That's where it can really benefit somebody to pay a little bit more on the interest rate
Yeah.
to save on your personal taxes.
Right. Well, and I mean, you and I both know that when we're looking at investment property, at the end of the day, it's what's your return on your investment? Is there that positive cash flow that you're looking for? And if you got to pay a little bit more, it's totally
So
worth
be
it
it.
in the long run, right?
That's right.
We can't be focusing on sort of the short term and what that actually
That's
looks
right. And don't forget, you can always write off the interest
Yeah.
on your taxes for that investment property.
Which is fantastic.
Exactly.
Now, let's say that someone's going to be in this type of situation. What would be the advantages of working with a mortgage agent or mortgage broker?
Well, a mortgage agent or broker is going to have the ability to shop the entire market to give you different options from different lenders. So just because one lender says no doesn't necessarily mean that every other lender is going to say no.
Right.
So it gives the borrower, it gives that person who wants to build up that real estate portfolio options,
Right.
which
right.
is really what the most important factor when it comes to shopping for mortgages.
Yeah, and I like that word, options, because what happens if those B lenders, in fact, you don't qualify there either? What other options do you have at that point? I mean, yes, we know the rates are going to go up, but what are the options?
So there's three different tiers of lenders. There's the banks, there's the B lenders, and then there's private lenders. Private lenders, they ask the fewest amount of questions, but as long as you've got the equity or the down payment, they'll lend you the money.
Right.
What's the catch? Typically, interest rates will start at about 7%
Okay.
for a mortgage. But again, it's all about options. It's all about having the ability to get into the market. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to stay with this one lender for a long time. You might only be with that lender for 1 year or 2 years. I call it a Band-Aid solution.
Just to get you in.
That's right. Get you into the property, acquire the property, and then you got to have a good mortgage agent's going to have a plan for you to eventually get out of that higher interest mortgage
Right.
and into a bank.
Right. And a lot of what we've been talking about now is probably more single family homes or maybe duplexes. When you get into, 6 or 10 units or maybe even a strip mall, I mean, I know we're looking then at commercial mortgages. Is that an entire different ball game, or is that sort of an extension of the same?
It's an entirely different ballgame. As soon as you go over 5 units on a
Yeah.
residential property or anything with a commercial component, the banks will look at it as a commercial mortgage.
Right. And in that instance, correct me if I'm wrong,
Sure.
but then the property's got to be able to qualify. It no
That's
longer
exactly
matters
right.
about your little job, right?
You got it. Exactly right.
Which is fantastic. Well, I really appreciate you being here. These are fantastic tips. And, despite what's happening in the marketplace from a mortgage perspective, lots of people are still looking to get into real estate. So thank you so much for being here.
Leemore, it's my pleasure.
What it really comes down to is looking at the return on your investment. It's important to recognize that even if you don't have the lowest interest rate on a mortgage on a rental property, if your return is positive and the property produces cash flow, you're in the game, building equity, taking advantage of appreciation, and building your wealth. Coming up after the break, we'll be discussing how to manage your finances if you decide to go it alone and not work with a financial planner. Is this possible? Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The Fortunate Future is brought to you by Nico, the cryptocurrency powering the Nikola Tesla legacy. Join the Nico community at www.nico.eco. Nikola Tesla was an inventor and futurist who helped shape our world. Nikola Tesla Unite Limited was formed to advance his visions of making the world a better place for all. Using a cryptocurrency called Nico, Nikola Tesla's legacy is being taken to new places in ways never before imagined. Nico is the center of a digital economy that brings like-minded people together. Those who believe in the vision of Nikola Tesla are part of the Nico economy that aims to empower everyone with the ability to achieve their dreams. For more information, visit www.nico.eco.
While there is no shortage of financial planners and financial advisors ready to guide you with your financial choices, many people feel more comfortable taking control and managing their own finances on their own. With access to so many tools, this is becoming more commonplace. And if you're thinking you want to save the fees and go it on your own, you'll love this topic. With me now is Rubina Ahmed Haq, personal finance columnist. So we hear a lot in the personal finance industry about needing to have an advisor or a planner to chart out the course of your finances. Why do you believe that it's possible for individuals to DIY their way through finances with a great deal of success?
Because there are so many resources now available at our fingertips. Gone are the days where you had to go into a bank and speak to a stranger about your retirement plan, about how you're going to save for a home, how you're going to buy that car. You can go online, you can take courses, you can get information, very detailed information about stocks and ETFs or any kind of investment that you want to do. I always say that it takes the same kind of critical thinking that we often use when we do celebrity gossip news, right? So if someone came to someone and said, hey, what did Kim Kardashian do over the weekend? You would know in crazy amount of detail.
I love it.
What Kim Kardashian did over the weekend, where she went, what she wore, who she made angry on Instagram, who's unfollowed her. So use that same critical thinking, that same research skills to do your investments.
So if somebody wanted to either take back their finances from a financial planner or get started because they've had their head in the ground all this time, where would you recommend they get started?
So I really, and I'm not promoting this in any way, I mean, I really like the couch potato method, where you invest for the long term. You mostly invest in index investing, so really investing in broad-based sort of all the TSX stocks or all the NASDAQ or all the S&P 500 or all gold stocks, really investing in that way rather than trying to pick and choose different stocks and different bonds and different categories that you think might do well. And do it for the long term. I'm not, someone who likes to day trade. I'm not someone who's going to tell you to buy a house and flip it. I've got my 5, 10, 15, 20-year plan.
So basically set it and forget
it. Yes.
Don't
so
worry
index
about it.
investing is a great way to do that. And it's really easy to learn for most of us who have some time to read up on how we want to save and invest our money.
Yeah. Now, even with the set it and forget it or investing for the long term, there's got to be an element of revisiting or rebalancing, or maybe your goals are changing. What do you recommend in terms of how often and how to go about doing that?
So I'm not absolutely recommending that we forget about financial advisors. I think that's one message I want to send, because of course, if you've got a complicated financial situation, say you've inherited some money, say you're also all of a sudden getting a huge bump in salary, say you've got really unique kind of goals that you want to reach and you don't know how you're going to get there. Maybe you've never saved money and you don't even know where to start. A financial advisor can help you get there. I really recommend, no fee, a fee only, so that you know upfront what you're paying for that service, rather than someone who's taking a little bit off of each investment that they get you to invest into. And also robo-advisors are really great. I mean, they're new in Canada. People are a little bit confused about what they are. I mean, robo-advising is probably the wrong term to use. It's smart technology that's helping you invest and rebalance, gets the information from the beginning, and works, the algorithm works with what your goals are. And so, yes, there's human beings behind it, but it's the computer that's helping you get to your goals.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, whether you've got the robo-advisor or the couch potato method, how do you prevent yourself from freaking out when you all of a sudden read the headlines and something is tanking or the markets are crashing? How do you respond to something like that?
I don't believe that we should not listen to business news, because you want to be up to date on what's happening. So, where the dollar's going, where gold's at, where the market's at, but don't react to daily headlines. That's what happened back in 2008, 2009. We remember the word capitulation. So you all of a sudden just start shedding all your stocks. You start getting rid of everything because you capitulate. You basically don't want to be invested anymore. You're scared of what the future might bring. If you had held on to those stocks, by now you would have tripled your money in some cases. If you had just held on, rode that stock market the way that it was going back in 2008, 2009, right up until now 2018 and going into 2019. So my best advice is kind of ignore it, but sort of keep half an ear onto it.
Don't freak out. Don't make any rash decisions, and hold in for the long hold.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I've heard you say that one of the ways, if you're looking to get started, is maybe talk to other people around you. Now, sometimes we are, the average of the 5 people we hang around, and they may not know too much about finances either. Where else can somebody begin to have those kinds of conversations and learn a bit more about money?
So if you want to just tap your own network, we all know people who are really good at saving money. We all know people who really understand the stock market, really understand investments. Just go and have a coffee with them and say, what do you do? And people love talking about themselves. So it's very easy to get people to talk about the way that they invest, the way that they save their money. And I would think that most people would be quite honored that you would want advice from them. Now, that doesn't mean you have to mimic their method, but it means that you can at least take some inspiration from it. I had a friend 20 years ago that said to me, go into your closet right now and add up all the stuff that you bought on sale, and then you're going to shop differently. And I tell you, from that day, I have shopped differently. I don't buy a bunch of shirts just because they're on sale for $20 each, and they used to be $80.
Right.
Those words sort of stayed with me, and so that would be, something that over time you'll take bits and pieces from all the people who are money savvy in your life and come up with your own plan. Because it's just like anything else. You've got to sort of find your own way to invest, your own goals to get to, but you only are going to get it by seeking information, whether it be through the internet, whether it be through sitting across from a financial advisor, whether it be like I do, often talking to my father, who is really good at investing and saving money.
Absolutely. And so then, of course, if you're deciding to DIY your finances, of course, you want to consistently upgrade that education. Just because you learned it once doesn't mean that, you're there to go. So what other avenues do you think people could have to continue to read or stay up to date as things are evolving?
Well, I think, watching programs like this is a good start,
Absolutely.
right? So keeping up to date on what's happening in the world of personal finance, what's happening in cryptocurrency, what's happening on the stock market. It doesn't mean obsessively watching business news and trying to absorb every bit of information, but if you're invested in gold, you kind of want to know what's going on with gold once in a while. And taking a course with, the Canadian Securities Institute, that might be a nice thing to do. You can take the CSE, which is a course that takes about 6 months to study for and pass, and it will give you a broad understanding of how the markets work and how the, bonds work and stocks work and all the different things that we hear about in the business news world, but then we don't really understand it because we haven't really bothered to sit down and think about it.
Absolutely. Well, those are some really, really great tips, and I think we should all feel empowered to take our finances into our own hands, whether it's entirely or working in partnership with incredible professionals who are out there. So thank you so much for those tips today.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Everyone's financial situation and goals are different, and many rely on the traditional route of consulting with a financial planner. However, if you are that person who wants to take control of your own finances and are willing to do the work to get yourself educated in the field, you can certainly achieve and exceed in your financial goals on your own merit. Rubina and I continued this conversation with an exclusive follow-up interview where she shared the first crucial steps to start saving. You can watch this interview and other topics on our website, thefortunatefuture.com. That wraps up today's show. Be sure to tune in every week to learn more about cryptocurrency, investing in real estate, and personal finance. I'd like to thank my guests, Brian, Michael, and Rubina, for being here on today's show. For more information, be sure to check out our website, thefortunatefuture.com, where you can find additional online content. Thanks for watching. I'm Lee Markman. Until next time, your fortunate future awaits.
Hairstyling provided by Hair Love by LB Hair. Hair products provided by Kevin Murphy.